Joseph, you've been on death row now for what, 16 years?
Yeah, about 16 years.
And now the execution date is drawing very near. What are your feelings with that?
Well, I'm hoping to get a stay of execution and have my sentence commuted to life without parole.
What do you think your chances are?
That's what I'm shooting for now. I don't really know what only God knows what the chances are of it happening.
You know, you were serving consecutive life sentences for some murders when you decided to confess to the Richmond Heights sniping and got the death sentence. Why did you decide to confess?
Well, I had a dream that told me to confess to the Richmond Heights case. And, I was kind of surprised to have a dream that would tell me that, But at the time, the guards at the federal penitentiary at Marion were planning to murder me because I assaulted one of them, threw some hot water on one of them. And I was unaware at that time that in the federal penitentiary, if you assault a prison guard, they have the right to kill you. This comes down from the top. They could literally take you and beat you to death. Any way they could think of to kill you, they have the right to kill a fellow prisoner just for assaulting a guard. I've heard it happening since then to at least one other inmate, but there have probably been dozens, maybe even hundreds of inmates murdered over there at the Marion Federal Penitentiary within the past 20, 30 years or so. And so, I was kind of in a catch-22 situation. I either could confess to this case and be on death row over here or get murdered by the guards within possibly a matter of weeks. So I chose the former to take my chances over here on death row.
Now, what prompted you to go to the synagogue that day and kill Gerald Gordon?
Well, just a misguided sense of right and wrong. I thought I was actually doing the right thing. I've been, indoctrinated. My mind was just all messed up after having read a whole lot of Nazi literature. Mein Kampf was the main one I read. I mean, you could go through the book from cover to cover. There's all sorts of anti-Jewish statements in there, and he doesn't even offer any proof whatsoever to back up the claims that he makes in the thing. Just nothing but one anti-Jewish or anti-Semitic statement after another. And when you continue reading that crap all the time, you eventually start to believe it. It just starts to soak into your psyche, I guess, And I was 18 when I first became involved with the American Nazi Party and started reading that book. And I was just very impressionable. I was just pretty much brainwashed by it,
Do you remember the details of that day?
Yeah, most of them. Yeah, I remember what happened.
What happened when apparently the shooting took place after the bar mitzvah was over and people were coming out?
Yeah, I really didn't have any idea what was going on there, whether the bar mitzvah or not. I learned that later. But I just was waiting for people to come out during the services, and when I did see some people, I began firing on them. But I was really terrified, though. I mean, I was scared while I was sitting there or kneeling there. I'd taken a large nail and drove it into a telephone pole, and then put some socks on it to have something to rest the rifle on, which was kind of crude. I really didn't need anything to rest the rifle on. I was a very inexperienced shooter too at that time. I just started my mission. That was in early, in '77, so I really didn't know how to shoot that well. I later began practicing a whole lot over the next 3 years and became a much better shot. But at that point in time, I could barely hit the broadside of a barn. I just learned how to shoot well enough to hit somebody.
Did you realize you had hit somebody?
I couldn't. I think I did see. I didn't actually see the guy being hit, but I saw the reaction of somebody else who was standing next to him that appeared to indicate he is looking down at somebody. You know, I didn't even stop long enough to look at him, and then I fired some other shells, several other bullets randomly in that direction. You know, and on those other bullets that I had, I knew I'd hit one guy. However, I had planned to use all the bullets and hit several others, you know, but I just couldn't do it. You know, whether it was fear or what, I mean, I know I was, you know, very afraid, you know what I mean? I don't know why, just terrified sitting there by that synagogue waiting. And, you know, instead of actually putting the crosshairs on anybody and firing again like I did with the first guy, I just fired about 4 or 5 bullets, just out there, not really intended to hit anybody. And luckily they didn't hit anybody, but my plan was just to empty the gun and make it look good, I guess. Then I just dropped the gun, jumped on a bicycle that I had planned to use to escape so no one would see what type of car I was driving, got to the car and just, ditched the bicycle.
Did you feel any remorse at that point, or what did you feel after?
Well, not at that point in time. I really didn't have any other feelings in my mind other than fear. Just a real strong feeling of fear, And then it didn't lessen after I committed the crime, because then I was afraid I would be caught by the police. I had not committed very many crimes. I was pretty inexperienced in that type of thing. I wasn't like a professional criminal. So I was just afraid, mostly afraid at that time, and was just wanting to get away, So.
What about now, years later? How do you feel about looking back at it?
Yeah, I think it was a terrible thing to do, a terrible crime to commit against some people at a house of worship. It's just I've got no excuse for it. All I can say is I was mentally ill. I mean, it was just a really, bad thing to do to somebody, you know what I mean? I regret it very much and wished I could undo it, or at least try to make amends to the people now, Of course, if I get executed, I wouldn't be able to do even that, but I just feel bad about it, So.
Now, you've been linked or connected somehow in different ways to like 15 to 20 killings. Is that accurate, do you think?
Well, I really don't want to go into any numbers at this point in time. I'd rather just focus on this case, if that's all right with you.
That's all right. What do you think? Do you think it was then the Nazi thing that fueled the hate?
Yeah, I know
You
it
hated Jews and blacks. Was that basically it?
Yeah, I would have never become anti-Jewish if I had not read Mein Kampf. That is a fact. I don't think anybody could argue with that. Plus the party publications of, what was published by the Nazi Party. Their monthly newspaper, White Power, anti-black, anti-Jewish too. So it was basically just what I was reading and allowing into my mind without the knowledge necessary to refute any of the statements that were made. When you're 18 years old, you don't have a whole lot of knowledge, and 19, so I just did not know. I didn't know how to contradict what Hitler was saying in Mein Kampf. I didn't know other things, so I basically just accepted what he was saying as truth, But I used to get a real funny feeling, though, after reading Mein Kampf. I don't know why that was. I've never had that feeling with any other book before. But after I would sit that book down and finish reading it, I would just really get this real odd feeling in my mind. You know what I mean? I don't know if it was something like some kind of psychic thing or what, but it was just a real odd feeling. And it was that book that ruined my life, messed up my life.
What started the feelings toward the blacks?
Mainly reading a whole lot of newspaper articles about black crime, you know, and they would focus on that in white power newspaper, any black on white crimes, and it just became something I was constantly obsessed with and thinking about.
Well, and this is, and I didn't know if, apparently Larry Flynt had filed this lawsuit to try to block your execution.
Right, I heard about that.
What's that about, do you think? Although you were never tried for his shooting, I don't believe.
I was never tried for it, nope.
But you admitted that you had shot?
I admitted it, yeah.
Yeah.
And I admitted today I was wrong to try to shoot Larry Flynt. It was the wrong thing to do, another terrible crime.
What's his lawsuit about?
Yeah, I regret shooting Larry Flynt too. Well, I haven't really, only thing I know is about an article. I mean, you probably have access to the internet and know more about it than I do.
Yeah, just that he was trying to block it because of who was supposed to administer the drugs, I believe.
Yeah.
Why would he want to block it, do you think?
He doesn't believe in the death penalty because it's administered so unfairly. He's a big supporter of the American Civil Liberties Union, and they're opposed to the death penalty. There's a whole lot of bad things about having a death penalty in a society such as this. You know what I mean? It's a lot different from biblical times, you know, when they had when the Lord authorized them to kill people as punishment for things. You know, for example, for adultery, people could be stoned and killed for adultery. You know, imagine what would it be like in America if they went around and killed everybody they caught committing adultery in this country. How many people you think would be, you would probably see bodies laying in the street every day. You know, the morgues would be packed. They wouldn't be able to hold all the bodies if they went by biblical law now in regards to start stoning people who committed adultery. So you can't really say we need that because that's the way it was in the Bible. Completely different society, you know. Another bad thing about this, having a death penalty in this society, is you're at a much greater advantage if you've got a lot of that guilt, money. You know what I mean? If I had a dream team like O.J. Simpson had, from the beginning, if I had the money to afford lawyers like that, I not only would not be on death row now, I would be on the streets now. As incredible as that sounds, I could have got out and be walking the streets a free man today if I'd have had that money.
Do you think you deserve to be out on the streets?
Well, what do you mean by that exactly?
I mean, do you think you would have been? Do you think you deserve to be out on the streets, or after admitting to killing this man in Richmond Heights?
Well, I think it's a terrible thing, and you know, to tell you the truth, I really would like to be out on the streets. I'll just say that, you know, answer your question that way. I would love to be out on the streets right now so I could make up for some of the stuff, the wrong things that I did previously, you know. It would be a good chance for me to try to cancel out, you know, all the bad karma that I generated from committing those violent crimes, you know. And killing people is wrong. It's violent. You know, any kind of violence like that is wrong. Yeah, I can tell you for a fact it isn't good. And the state wants to commit violence to the inmates who've been convicted of these crimes on death row. And, you know, two wrongs don't make a right. You know that?
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's just not a good thing. The Bible teaches that when a person has repented, you know, and I'm talking about somebody who is sincerely repents, not like a lot of inmates who claim to be Christians just so they'll get out. I've met many like that. And most of the inmates I've met fall in that category, just basically a bunch of phonies. You know what I mean? Even a lot of Muslims the same way, a bunch of phonies. Although there are some who are sincere, and their embracing of Christianity has helped them, made them better people, but they haven't changed inside though. You know, it hasn't been anything internal, just on the surface. The same with Muslims and various other people, you know, or organizations, denominations. But, you know, I've changed a whole lot over the years, so I think, you know, I would be able to do a lot of good on the outside.
How would you describe the Joseph Franklin today compared to the one back 30 years ago?
Man, it's like a completely different person that you wouldn't even recognize. You would think it was somebody else except for the name. You know, that was not my true self that day at that synagogue shooting at people. You know, I would be very opposed to anybody doing like that, committing a crime like that. And it would actually make me angry to hear about somebody committing a crime that way, of that type. So it's just, I've just grown and changed so much. You know, sometimes I'm surprised myself at how much I've changed over the years. And I've actually made an effort to change too. You know, I haven't just been sitting around hoping I would change. I've made a lot of effort to change. And it's just like the difference between day and night, the type of person I was then and the type of person I am now.
If you had a chance to...
Knowledge has helped out a lot. I've acquired a whole lot of knowledge since I've been locked up. Kind of focused on that. It's basically part of my religion.
So
you know, to acquire knowledge.
Like that religion has helped you then?
I already know it has. It seems to me that's pretty much the only thing that can help a person. Unless the Lord is helping you and guiding you and drawing you to Him, you ain't going to ever change. You know, that is a fact. Most of these inmates, at least 95% I would say, or probably more, are totally incorrigible. They never change. But there's a saying, when God saves you, He changes you, you know, and only He can change you. So I've changed a whole lot over, you know, the past 30 years or so, you know.
If you had a chance to say something to the Gordon family,
yeah,
what would you say?
Well, I actually thought at one time of writing to them when I was at the St. Louis County Jail. Lee Langford came over there to talk to me one evening. You know, that was nice of him, you know. So we sat out there and talked through the glass of telephones like you and I are doing now. But I said, you know, well, I've got Sheila Gordon's address because, you know, the name was on the witness list and I was representing myself. I'd like to write to the lady and apologize to her, you know. But he told me, don't do it. Don't write to her, you know. So I never did. I guess he thought I would scare her, you know. She would think I was stalking her or something like that. So I didn't write, but I really wanted to, and I've wanted to all these years to correspond with them. You know, I was just wishing that they would reach out, somebody from the synagogue would contact me, you know, and ask for an apology. But nobody did. But I would apologize to her right now, tell her I'm sorry for the horrible crime that I committed and ask for her forgiveness. You know, that's what I would say to Miss Gordon now. I really feel for her.
I also, I talked with, I did not talk with Mrs. Gordon, but I talked with the young man who was having his bar mitzvah that day.
Yeah, I feel, you know, I feel sorry for that.
He was pretty traumatized by all
Yeah, I can imagine. Yeah, it's a horrible thing for a young lad like that, you know, when he's going through his bar mitzvah. You know, but I was so mentally ill and crazy, that's the type of thing I you know, was led into, you know, through Nazism.
Do you think you deserve to die?
Well, to tell you the truth, I actually think I do, yeah. To be quite honest with you. I cannot I cannot say no to that question.
That's a tough thing to face, isn't it?
Yeah, it is, yeah.
But you think there's still a chance this will be stayed?
Yeah, well, there's always a possibility, I guess, that, I could get a stay of execution, but people tell me I might, a few people have tried to encourage me that way, so, I just hope that they're right, A friend of mine told me, she said, I don't think you'll get a stay. I said, what do you base that on? She said she just has this gut feeling. Like I say, I hope she's right. That would be a good thing. I would then have a chance to make amends for a lot of the stuff I've done in whatever way I could, I think that would really be a good thing too.
Do you think that the religion that you speak of and your relationship with God has taken away the hate for Jews and blacks?
Absolutely, yeah, it sure has, yeah, And I got interested in the world religions back during the late 80s at the Federal Penitentiary at Marion. I know I've told this to a lot of people, so you probably heard it too.
I read something where you had studied some things.
Yeah, I got into the world religions, began studying them, Hinduism, Wicca, Christianity, Judaism, Islam, Buddhism, and various others. I just became fascinated with religion when I was at the Federal Penitentiary at Marion. And, I found out that a lot of the world religions actually have a lot in common. It's amazing how much they have in common. If you study one religion and learn about it, it helps you to understand your own religion. So it's a really good thing to study other religions other than your own and not stick just with that one religion, You can learn stuff from other types of religion, just like you can learn a lot of things from meeting other people from other countries and other cultures, Learn a lot from them.
Okay, well, I think apparently you didn't have that kind of upbringing. You weren't introduced to religion as a child. It doesn't sound like.
I actually had, was involved in religion quite a bit when I was a kid, and really the only person in my family who was, And when I was 15, I became involved with Herbert W. Armstrong's Worldwide Church of God, headquartered in Pasadena, California. Him and his son, Garner Ted Armstrong, were the leaders of the church. You might remember them from the 60s. They had a radio broadcast from coast to coast, off the coast of England. They had the pirate stations there because they wouldn't allow anything but the BBC in England. But they taught a form of British Israelism, and I used to actually observe the Sabbath and all the holy days and stuff like that, and would not eat pork and other unclean meats even when I was a teenager. We were given a calendar, a Hebrew calendar with all the names of the months, Nisan, Iyar, Sivan, Tammuz, Ab, Elul, and all the names of the months of the year written in Hebrew, and I memorized them at that time. So I had, I was more into religion when I was growing up than most inmates are now. Most of them had never darkened the door of a church before. But I went astray, and that's how I wound up here. It was my punishment from the Lord.
Well, I appreciate you taking the time to talk with us.
It's been nice talking to you, Mr. O'Neill.
And
you're Tom O'Neill?
Yes.
Okay. One of the gentlemen who works here recognized you and told me your name before I got up here.
Yeah. We're with Fox too. So
yes,
appreciate you talking with us.
It's not a problem.
Is there anything else that you would like to say to me or anyone else?
Well, Larry Flint for president. Tell you the truth, I liked what he said about me, trying to stop my execution, But really, I really think, seriously, I've thought about this, Larry is pretty much interested in politics, I think he would make a better president of the United States than Obama and a lot of the politicians in Washington today. You know, I don't think he would allow Gitmo to stay open. He would close that immediately with an executive order. He wouldn't be killing innocent men, women, and children with drones over there in Pakistan like Obama's doing now. You know, I think he would make, you know, believe it or not, I think Larry Flint would make a great president of the United States.